Let me just give you an idea of how redundant and stupid the powers that be are, that are the ones that are directing us out of this quote unquote climate crisis. Okay. So I have this truck right here, and it is a 2020 Ram 5500, and it gets about 10 miles to the gallon on average, maybe 11 if I'm keeping it under 70. Right? So that truck right there has this system that's hooked up to it called a diesel. It's a diesel exhaust fluid system, and what it does is it basically cooks the carbon that comes out of the motor, and it more or less puts out um, a neutral output on the truck, neutral exhaust. And the process of, you know, doing that lowers my gas mileage. Like if I could tune the truck and take that system off it and actually put in the right parts and take the EGR out and all these things that the government has deemed to be necessary to make sure that these are clean emissions vehicles. So now I get 10 miles to the gallon, whereas if this truck was tuned in the way that I could, and it wouldn't be federally illegal, I could get closer to 18 miles to the gallon. So I'm using 7 more gallons, or I'm losing 7 miles to my gallon, essentially almost half. I mean, we're talking a 40%, you know, loss, and 40% more fuel that I now have to use in that truck. I have to use 40% more fuel in that truck in order for me to be more climate conscious. What the fuck? And then not only that, like we get all our oil from literally across the planet, right? Like in Saudi Arabia and Iraq and all these big oil places. We get all our oil over there and then we ship it across the world to use. What the fuck? Why don't we just drill the oil that we have here? We do drill a lot of oil, but there's a lot of it that could be drilled that isn't. And it's just like, I don't know, the whole thing just doesn't fucking make sense. And this is like probably my biggest issue that I've had in hanging out in this society is just watching all these stupid fucking things. It's just like, what is going on here? But let's talk about the climate, the climate crisis. Uh, Currently, we have, and what I think of when I see the quote unquote climate crisis, the biggest thing is like the climate is becoming kind of rough and scary and hard to live in certain areas. And we're seeing extreme temperatures in both lows and highs. And I can really only speak for America because that's really all I've been tracking for the last 5 or 6 years is America. What's been going on in America. But we have forests all over the West that are burning down. And because of poor management over the last 50, 60, 100 years. We have the desertification of all the grassland that we had in the central U.S. Now it's all just desert and cornfields. Um, we have all the wetlands that have disappeared because we killed all the beaver. We killed all the buffalo, which were the prime drivers to a successful grassland. And part of that cycle, they eat the grass, shit it out, puts good nutrients that come from the bacteria in their stomach, creates a like really good loamy soil that the grass can thrive in. And so these herds of buffalo that were literally 50, 60 miles long. That's how big these fucking herds were. They were millions of buffalo that the herd from one end to the other were 50 to 60 miles long. And those managed all this huge area that's now just a desert in Texas and Oklahoma, Colorado, and all these areas that have just turned into desert land. Used to be just great grasslands, and they held so much carbon. They would pull carbon from the air and they would hold it in there, and then all that got released, and then we had the Great Dust Bowl in the 1930s, which happened right at the same time as the Great Depression. A lot of people starved. You know, all the topsoil just blew away. So that's what real climate change is. That's what real climate change looks like. And the only way that we're going to get out of this mess that we're in is if we start trying to get those things back, get our grasslands back, develop our forests back to the way they were with a lot of diversity, and allow them to grow and become old growth forests, because those have the most diversity, they hold the most carbon. Planting new trees. Young trees pull in way more carbon than an older tree as they're growing, because their growth stage when they're young is so much faster. So planting new trees, you know, getting the government to remove our fucking DEF systems on our trucks. God, shit like that. You know, taking this backward ass engineering, you know, a problem that's not really a problem, you know. We have these fucking amazing things on this earth called plants, and they literally eat carbon. That's what they eat, you know. When it comes to like Trump rolling back the Green New Deal and all this thing, the only thing that concerns me about that is if we start our major manufacturing processes and oils and all that shit here in America again, are they going to be responsible with the way that they do things? Are they going to make sure that there's like a environmentally friendly and safe way that they can be disposing of wastes and producing chemicals and so on and so forth? You know, that's the only thing that really concerns me is like, sure, drill your oil, I don't mind, but are you being responsible? Are you being safe? You know, I don't know. It seems like you're not really being that safe because you're sticking it all on a fucking giant tanker and sending it across the planet, spilling your oils everywhere. You know, I mean, I don't know if you're aware, but you can't even eat more than one fish out of an American river or stream per year because you're now getting into dangerous mercury levels that you're putting into your system. And this is something that happened through the 40s, 50s, 60s in our giant, you know, 70s. You know, people say, oh, the environment, we're ruining the environment. But I got this uncle, and he's one of the smartest humans I've ever met, and he happens to be a thermal engineer. And besides that point, uh, he was telling me what it was like back in the 70s, the 60s, 70s, before the EPA was established. Fucking, we're talking rivers that were, you know, look like something out of India. We're talking poison lands and polluted cities that make our polluted cities today look like, you know, a clean air wonderland. You know, it used to be bad, bad, and then we cleaned up our act. And I think if we just continue to clean up our act and we stop adding redundant systems and we make sure that we're being environmentally responsible, I think we'll actually be fine. But if we really want to affect our climate, it's not about putting a hamper on what we're doing. That's not going to work. It's about developing systems, planting forests, getting more people to participate in a homesteading style lifestyle. They can take their own chunk of land and they can rehab it to the way that it should be. And this is ultimately how we're actually going to fix our climate crisis. We're not going to fix it any other way. It's not going to happen. It's not going to be, there's not going to be bills. There's not going to be a politician that's going to fix it for us. It's going to be up to the people of this earth to decide that our lifestyle will be more conducive to having a clean and healthy planet. And until we decide that we want to undertake that style of life, the climate's just going to continue to fucking blow itself up to hell. No matter what laws are passed or what regulations are put forth, it'll never fucking change. And these big storms and these crazy things happening all over the planet, will probably just continue to get worse, you know. But even then, I mean, we've documented some pretty crazy storms, even back in the 1900s and all that. So what we're seeing is not much new. It's just now we have a lot more people that can get hurt, you know. So that's what I got to say. Thanks for listening.